Have you ever watched someone stay in a job that's destroying their soul? Seen a friend trapped in a relationship that's become a prison? Noticed how people defend the very systems that enslave them? This isn't weakness. This isn't ignorance. This is something far more unsettling. This is the psychology of voluntary slavery. Picture this. Stanford University researchers in 2019 discovered something shocking. 68% of Americans admit their life doesn't align with their values. Yet only 9% actually make significant changes. The rest stay put, not because they can't leave, but because they fear freedom more than captivity. When the 13th Amendment abolished slavery in 1865, something strange happened across the American South. Thousands of freed slaves remained on plantations. They continued working for former masters. Some even defended them against Union soldiers. Why? They feared the unknown more than familiar suffering. Today we see this pattern everywhere. The woman who stays with a man who diminishes her worth. The man who works at a company that crushes his spirit. The society that protects leaders who betray them. And they all repeat the same mantra. Better the devil you know than the devil you don't. But what if the problem isn't the devil? What if the problem is our brain, which has learned to love its chains? Friedrich Nietzsche observed this in 19th century Europe. He watched people of his era choose comfort over greatness, security over freedom, predictability over possibility. In his masterwork Thus Spoke Zarathustra, he described a type of human he called the last man, not a criminal, not a tyrant, but someone whose highest value became comfort. Nietzsche wrote, "We have invented happiness, say the last men, and they blink. They have left the regions where it was hard to live, for one needs warmth. One still loves one's neighbor and rubs against one another, for one needs warmth." This quote doesn't describe the past. It describes our present. Think of it like a cage with an open door. A bird sits inside. Food arrives daily. Temperature stays perfect. No predators, no storms, no uncertainty. The door stands open, but the bird never flies out. Why? Because outside the cage, you must find your own food, save yourself from danger. Make decisions every moment. Freedom demands responsibility, and responsibility exhausts us. Nietzsche wasn't just criticizing. He was diagnosing a psychological illness spreading through civilization. He saw how religion, morality, and social norms transformed into tools of self-enslavement, how people voluntarily abandoned what he called the will to power, how they chose to become sheep in a herd rather than lions in the wilderness. But why does our brain work this way? Why do we choose familiar slavery over unfamiliar freedom? The answer goes deeper than philosophy. It's encoded in our neurobiology. When psychologists began studying this phenomenon, they discovered something stunning. Our brain doesn't seek freedom, it seeks predictability. And this isn't a bug, it's a feature that kept our ancestors alive for millennia. Daniel Kahneman won the Nobel Prize in Economics for understanding how humans make decisions. His discovery changed our understanding of human nature. In research published in the journal Science, he identified a fundamental principle. Humans feel the pain of loss twice as intensely as pleasure. From equivalent gain, think about this. If you lose $50, the pain from that loss hits twice as hard as the joy from finding $50. Our brain is wired to avoid losses more strongly than pursue wins. Now apply this to freedom. When you contemplate change, your brain doesn't calculate potential gains, it fixates on potential losses. Stable salary, familiar environment, predictable schedule. Even if all this destroys you, your brain screams, "Don't risk losing what you have." University of Pennsylvania conducted an experiment in 2016. Participants faced a choice: guaranteed small electric shock right now, or possibility of avoiding shock but risking a stronger one later. 81% chose guaranteed pain. They preferred known suffering over a known possibility. This is exactly how slave psychology works. Better to know tomorrow will be bad than not know what tomorrow holds at all. Our ancestors in ancient savannas lived by a simple survival rule. If you know where to find water, even if it's far to walk, stay there. Don't go searching for a better source because you might find nothing and die of thirst. Those who risked often perished. Those who stayed in the predictable survived and passed their genes forward. You carry the DNA of those who chose safety. And now this instinct works against you in a world where the greatest danger isn't risk but stagnation. But there's another mechanism at play, even darker, the illusion of control. Nietzsche wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, "It is not the lie that kills truth, but the fact that people are no longer capable of hearing it. Self-deception became our most effective survival tool." Harvard psychologist Ellen Langer conducted a series of experiments in the 70s. She gave people lottery tickets. Half could choose their numbers. The other half received randomly assigned numbers. Then she offered to buy the tickets back. Those who chose their own numbers demanded 5 times more money for their tickets. Why? They felt they controlled the outcome. Even when they objectively controlled nothing, slavery provides the illusion of control through predictability. A slave knows their day. 6 a.m. wake up, 7 a.m. work, noon lunch, 6 p.m. sleep. No surprises, no choices. But the very absence of choice creates a feeling of stability. A free person wakes not knowing what the day will bring. They must choose where to go, what to do, how to earn. Each decision carries risk of error, and error can cost everything. Columbia University research revealed something remarkable. Domestic violence victims often return to abusers not from love, but from predictability. One interviewee said, "I know when he'll hit me Friday night after drinking, but I don't know what will happen if I leave." Predictable hell feels safer than unpredictable paradise. Think about your job. Maybe it exhausts you, but you know every 25th of the month money appears in your account. You know how your boss behaves. You know the rules of the game, even if the game isn't fair. Now imagine you quit chaos, uncertainty, freedom, and your brain screams, "Return to the cage." At least there it's safe. But the most insidious mechanism lies ahead: energy conservation. Roy Baumeister, psychologist from Florida State University, made a discovery that changed psychology. He called it ego depletion. Our willpower works like a muscle. Each decision, each act of self-control exhausts it. In the famous cookie experiment, participants faced a difficult task beforehand. Half were asked to resist eating freshly baked cookies sitting in front of them. The other half could eat as many as they wanted. Result: those who spent willpower resisting temptation gave up twice as fast on the next task, their attention battery depleted. Now imagine this at life scale. Freedom means thousands of decisions daily. What to eat, how to earn, whom to talk to, where to go. Each decision drains the battery. Slavery removes this burden. Someone else decides for you. Your only job is obey. No decisions, no depletion, no responsibility. A 2011 study demonstrated the paradox of choice in action. Supermarkets set up to jam tables. One had 6 varieties. The other had 24 varieties. Which table attracted more buyers? The 24-variety table drew attention, but only 3% bought anything. At the 6-variety table, 30% made purchases. Why? Too much choice exhausts and paralyzes. Now multiply this across all life domains: career choice, partner choice, city choice, lifestyle choice. Freedom means unlimited choice, and unlimited choice means unlimited exhaustion. A slave has one choice: obey or be punished. Simplicity, clarity, energy conservation. Nietzsche understood this. He wrote, "Man would rather will nothingness than not will at all." We're ready to choose slavery rather than feel the burden of absolute freedom. Have you noticed how after a hard day full of decisions, you just want someone to tell you what to do? This isn't weakness. This is physiology. Your prefrontal cortex is exhausted. It needs rest. Systems know this. Corporations build entire cultures around this knowledge. Microsoft conducted internal research in 2017. Employees making over 150,000 decisions per week showed 40% drop in decision quality by Thursday afternoon. The company responded not by reducing decisions but by standardizing more processes, making people comfortable robots. Tech giants like Google and Facebook perfected this. Free food eliminates meal decisions. Shuttle buses eliminate commute decisions. On-site gyms Eliminate fitness decisions. They don't do this from kindness. They do it to capture your decision. Making energy for work. You arrive mentally fresh because someone else decided everything else for you. Comfortable slavery. The golden handcuffs phenomenon reveals this perfectly. Silicon Valley engineer earning $300,000 yearly, but half comes in stock. Vesting over 4 years. If they leave early, they lose hundreds of thousands. Golden cage, comfortable, but still a cage. Research from MIT Sloan School of Management found something disturbing. 73% of high-earning tech workers reported feeling trapped by their compensation packages. They called it success prison. The more you earn, the harder it becomes to leave. Amazon warehouse workers face the opposite trap. Not golden handcuffs, but economic desperation. Sensors track every second of productivity. Bathroom breaks counted, but workers stay because rent is due. Kids need food. Medical bills pile up. Different mechanisms. Same result. Voluntary captivity. Psychologist Barry Schwartz coined the term tyranny of choice. When options exceed our processing capacity, we don't feel liberated. We feel paralyzed. And paralysis makes us vulnerable to anyone offering simplicity. This explains why authoritarian leaders thrive during complex times. They promise, I alone can fix it. Trust me. Stop thinking. Stop choosing. Just follow. And exhausted people gratefully surrender their autonomy for the promise of simplicity. But psychology is only half the story. The other half is even darker. Systems learn to exploit our weaknesses. In the 50s, psychologist Solomon Asch conducted an experiment that made history. He gathered groups and showed them simple lines. The task was identifying which line was longest. So simple that error seemed impossible. But there was a twist. In each group, everyone except one person was a plant. And all plants deliberately gave wrong answers. What did the real person do? 75% agreed with the obviously wrong answer at least once, even when their own eyes told them otherwise. Ash later asked participants why. Most answered, I knew the group was wrong, but I didn't want to stand out. Didn't want to be the outcast. Herd instinct is stronger than reality. Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, where the herd is, there is the madness of the masses, poisoning by the poison of the masses. Isolation is punished. The conscience of solitude becomes sick. Our society learned to use this instinct to create voluntary slaves. How? Through normalization of slavery. Think about American student loan debt. 45 million Americans owe $1.7 trillion. Average debt $30,000 per borrower. This is direct restriction of freedom. Can't quit bad job because loan payments due. Can't take risks because can't afford default. Can't move cities because needs stable income. But an entire generation grew up considering this normal. Debt became an expected rite of passage. Not a tragedy but a tradition. Slaves defending their chains because everyone around wears identical ones. Today we see the same pattern in social media. Algorithms create bubbles where everyone thinks identically. If all your friends work 60-hour weeks, you'll start considering this normal. If everyone around you carries debt, debt becomes a normal part of life. The herd normalizes slavery, and then chains become unnecessary. People choose not to stand out. Yale University research from 2020 showed striking statistics. 87% of young adults feel pressure to perform success on social media. 41% say this causes anxiety and depression. But they continue. Why? Because everyone does it. Leaving the herd means remaining alone, and loneliness for a social species equals death. But there's an even deeper level of manipulation. Economic. Modern systems invented a genius way to keep people enslaved. Not through physical violence, through economic dependence. Federal Reserve data showed 63% of Americans couldn't cover an unexpected $400 expense without borrowing. They live paycheck to paycheck. This means zero freedom. Can't leave bad job because 1 month without salary equals catastrophe. Can't move to another city because no money for relocation. Can't risk starting a business because no safety cushion. The economic system creates a golden cage. Gives you enough to survive, but not enough to escape. And most insidiously, it does this through debt. 30-year mortgage. Car loan. Credit cards. Student loans. Each debt is a chain keeping you in the system. Corporations know this. Amazon warehouse algorithm determines if you're working fast enough. Miss quota, and you're terminated. But you can't quit because rent is due tomorrow. Uber and Lyft drivers work 70 hours weekly earning below minimum wage after expenses, but they stay because they already bought the car on credit. Sunk cost fallacy meets economic desperation. The gig economy promised freedom. Instead, it delivered precarity masquerading as flexibility. Nietzsche predicted this. He wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, they still work. For work is entertainment. But they take care that entertainment does not exhaust them. The system learned to make slavery pleasant. Offices with ping-pong tables. Free food. Meditation rooms. You don't feel like a slave when your cage is so beautiful. But a cage remains a cage. Gallup research showed only 15% of workers worldwide feel engaged at their jobs. 85% are either indifferent or actively dissatisfied. But they keep showing up. Day after day. Year after year. Why? Because debt won't let them leave. Because family needs stability. Because age isn't right for risks. Because fear. And the system knows this fear. And feeds it. But not all systems work this way. There are exceptions. Nordic countries invented a model economists call flexicurity. Flexibility plus security. Denmark, for example, has one of the highest job satisfaction rates in the world. How do they do it? They make freedom less frightening. First, strong social safety net. If you lose your job, the state provides 80% of your salary for up to 2 years. This removes fear of the unknown. Second, free education and retraining. Want to change careers at 40? No problem. The state pays for education. Third, strong unions protecting workers. You're not alone against the corporation. Result, Danes change jobs on average every 5 years, Americans every 12 years. Danes don't fear change because the system catches them if they fall, and the economy thrives. GDP per capita among world's highest, innovation rate high, population happiness tops global rankings. This proves a fundamental truth. Freedom doesn't necessarily mean chaos. It means a system that supports rather than enslaves. This sounds dramatic. But the essence is simple. True freedom requires willingness to release what limits you, even when it's terrifying. Here are 4 concrete steps. First step, recognize your chains. Take a sheet of paper. Write everything in your life you do not because you want to but because you fear consequences of refusing. Job, relationships, obligations, debts, habits. Be absolutely honest. Nobody will see this list. It's only for you. Psychologist James Pennebaker from University of Texas conducted research. People who wrote about their fears and limitations showed 32% stress reduction within a month. Simply acknowledging the problem begins solving it. Second step, gradually expand comfort zone. Don't immediately quit your job or end relationships. Start small. If you fear financial instability, start saving 10% of income. In a year you'll have a 6-week cushion. That's already freedom. If you fear loneliness, start spending 1 evening weekly alone. Learn to be with your thoughts. Fear of loneliness vanishes when you understand you can be alone without suffering. Third step. Build supporting environment. Remember Ash's experiment. The herd pulls down, but it can pull up too. Find people who already did what you fear, who changed careers, who moved countries, who ended toxic relationships. Their example shows you it's possible. Harvard research showed if your close friend makes significant life change, probability you'll do something similar increases 57%. Freedom is contagious, like slavery. Fourth step, practice accepting uncertainty. This is hardest. Meditation, philosophical reading, journaling are all tools. Stoics taught a technique called negative visualization. Every morning spend 5 minutes imagining worst-case scenario. You lose your job. Partner leaves you. Health fails. Sounds depressing. Opposite. When you regularly face the worst in imagination, it loses power over you. You understand, even if the worst happens, I'll survive. I'll find a way. And then freedom becomes possible, because you're no longer running from fear. You're running toward possibilities. Nietzsche ended Zarathustra with words. This was my morning. My day begins. Now rise, rise. Great noon. He spoke of awakening from slavery's sleep, of choosing to truly live. The question isn't whether being free is easy. Freedom was never easy. The question is whether you're ready to pay its price, ready to trade comfort for authenticity, predictability for possibility, safety for a life worth living. Most people die never asking themselves this question. They live life asleep, safe, comfortable, empty. You can choose differently, right now, today. What one step will you take this week to expand your freedom? One conversation you feared starting. One skill you postponed learning. One decision you avoided making. Write it in comments. Not for me. For yourself. To fix intention. Research shows people who publicly declare goals achieve them twice as often. And if this video touched something in you, share it with someone still sleeping in their golden cage. Maybe your message becomes the push they need, because ultimately there are only two types of people, those who exist and those who live. The choice is always yours.